The big metal doors of the training hall opened with a loud sound. Commander Vex-High walked in, his blue skin changing colors like a mood ring. Behind him, two robot helpers pushed something covered by a huge white sheet. The thing underneath was big and made scraping sounds on the floor. Jake Morrison sat in the back row with his friends. He was a short guy with dark hair and hands that always had grease on them. Next to him sat Lisa Rodriguez, a smart girl from Texas who could fix anything with her old toolbox. Danny Kim was there too, a quiet kid who looked at machines like they were puzzles to solve. "Students," Commander Vex-High said, his voice filling the room. "Today you will see your final test." The alien students in the front rows sat up straight. There were tall blue ones with long arms, floating gas creatures that looked like clouds, and crystal beings that sparkled in the light. They all came from different planets across the galaxy. They had fancy tools that beeped and glowed. The commander grabbed the white sheet and pulled it away. Everyone gasped that what they saw was a complete mess. It used to be a spaceship, but now it looked like someone had put it in a giant blender. The metal was twisted and burned. Holes went all the way through it. Wires hung out like broken bones. Black scorch marks covered everything. "This is a Zephyrian destroyer," the commander said. "The best engineers in 3-star systems tried to fix it. They all failed." A student with 4 arms raised one of them. "Sir, what happened to it?" "It fought in the Battle of Kepler 9. It took direct hits from plasma cannons, ion storms, and quantum torpedoes. The crew got out alive, but the ship was declared dead." Jake leaned forward in his seat. He had seen wrecked cars before, but this was something else. Still, there was something about it that made him think it could be saved. "You have 1 week, the commander continued. "If you can get basic power working, you get extra credit. If you can get life support running, you get full marks. But I do not think any of you will succeed." The alien students started talking in their different languages. Some made clicking sounds. Others spoke in musical tones. A few just changed colors to communicate. Lisa whispered to Jake, "Look at all their fancy equipment." Jake looked around the room. The crystal students had machines that could see inside metal. The gas creatures floated around with devices that could read energy patterns. The blue aliens had tools that Jake couldn't even guess what they did. "What do we have?" Danny asked quietly. Lisa patted her old toolbox. Some basic tools and our hands." The other students laughed when they saw the human tools. An alien with tentacles for arms pointed at Lisa's toolbox and made a sound like a car engine braking. "Look at the primitive Deathworlders," it said to its friend. "They think they can fix advanced technology with Stone Age tools. Their whole planet tries to kill them every day," another alien replied. "Maybe their brains are damaged from all the stress." Jake heard them talking, but didn't care. He was already walking toward the wrecked ship. His friends followed him. While the other students set up their complicated machines, the 3 humans did something different. They walked around the ship. Slowly, they touched the broken metal with their bare hands. They looked inside the dark holes with simple flashlights. "This is weird," Lisa said, running her fingers along a cracked wall panel. "Feel this." Danny and Jake touched the same spot. The metal felt warm, even though the ship had been dead for months. "There's still power somewhere," Danny said. "Maybe. Trapped in the batteries." Jake climbed through a hole in the side of the ship. Inside, it was dark and smelled like burned electronics. But he could hear something, a very quiet humming sound. "Guys," he called out, "get in here." Lisa and Danny crawled through the hole. Their flashlights lit up a mess of broken equipment and twisted metal. But Jake was right. There was definitely a humming sound coming from somewhere deep in the ship. "The core is still active," Lisa said with excitement. It's running on backup power. How did the other engineers miss this? Danny asked. Maybe. They didn't listen, Jake said. Maybe they just looked at their computer screens instead of actually touching the ship. An alien student with glowing eyes poked its head through the hole. What are you doing in there? It's dangerous. We're getting to know the ship, Lisa called back. Getting to know it? The alien asked, confused. It's just a machine. No, Jake said, patting a wall panel like it was a sick dog. It's not just a machine. It's hurt, but it's still alive. The alien student made a disgusted sound and left. Soon, other aliens were talking about the crazy humans who thought dead ships were alive. But the three humans didn't care what the others thought. They spent the rest of the day crawling through the ship, touching everything, listening to every sound. They found things the fancy scanners had missed. They discovered that some systems were still working, just barely when the day ended. Most of the other students had barely started. They were still setting up their equipment and running tests, but the humans had something better. They understood the ship. So what's the plan? Danny asked as they packed up their simple tools. We're not going to fix it, Jake said with a grin. What? Lisa asked, confused. We're going to make it better than it was before, Jake explained. We're going to make it human. The next morning, the real work would begin. And the galaxy was about to learn what happened when humans decided something was worth saving. The second day started early. While the alien students were still setting up their expensive machines, the three humans were already inside the broken ship eating breakfast. They sat on boxes in what used to be the main control room, sharing food from Earth. Pass the coffee, Lisa said, unwrapping a sandwich. The other aliens couldn't drink coffee. It was like poison to most of them. But humans needed it to think clearly. So what do we know about how these aliens build ships? Danny asked, looking at the pretty curves of the damaged controls. They make everything connected, Jake said, taking a bite of his sandwich. Like one big living thing. If one part breaks, it affects everything else. That's the problem, Lisa said. When this ship got hit, everything broke at once. It's like a chain reaction. Jake nodded. But humans don't build things that way. We make backups for our backups. Outside the ship, they could hear the alien students working with their fancy tools. Machines beeped and buzzed. Lights flashed. The aliens talked in excited voices about quantum readings and molecular structures. They're trying to make it perfect again, Annie said, watching through a hole in the wall. They want to put everything back exactly the way it was. But we don't need perfect, Lisa said with a smile. We need something that works. This was the big difference between humans and aliens. The aliens came from safe planets where everything was controlled and predictable. When something broke, they replaced it with an exact copy. But humans came from Earth, where everything was dangerous and nothing worked perfectly. On Earth, humans learned to fix things with whatever they had. They learned to make old things work in new ways. They learned that ugly solutions were often the best solutions. Jake stood up and looked at the ship's main computer. It was completely dead, black screens and silent speakers. The aliens had already said it was impossible to fix without a complete replacement. What if we don't try to fix the computer? Jake said. What do you mean? Lisa asked. What if we bypass it completely? Make our own control system? Danny's eyes lit up. You mean like hot wiring a car? Exactly like hot wiring a car. Jake grinned. The three humans spent the morning doing something that made the alien students very upset. Instead of trying to fix the broken parts, they started taking them apart. They pulled out damaged circuits and cut away twisted metal. They made the ship look even more broken than before. They're destroying it, cried an alien student with tentacles. They're making it worse, Those crazy Deathworlders have lost their minds, said another alien with crystal skin. They're turning it into scrap metal. But the humans weren't destroying the ship. They were learning how it worked. Every wire they cut, every panel they removed, every circuit they pulled out taught them something new about the ship's design. Look at this, Lisa said, holding up a piece of the ship's brain. It's beautiful, but it's also fragile. One small crack, and the whole thing stops working. The aliens build everything to be perfect, Danny said, but perfect things break easily. We don't build perfect things, Jake added. We build things that keep working, even when they're broken. By lunchtime, the humans had cleared out most of the damaged equipment. The inside of the ship looked like a skeleton. Just the basic structure remained. But now they could see how everything connected. They could understand the ship's bones. Okay, Jake said, wiping grease off his hands. Now we start building. But they didn't build the way the aliens expected. Instead of using fancy alien technology, they used human methods. They ran thick cables along the walls instead of hiding them inside. They put manual switches next to every automatic control. They made sure every important system could be controlled by hand if the computers failed. This is horrible, said an alien teacher who came to watch. It looks like a primitive spacecraft from 1,000 years ago. It looks like something that will still work after getting shot at, Lisa replied, not looking up from her welding. The alien teacher made a disgusted sound and left. But other aliens started watching more carefully. They began to notice that the humans weren't just making the ship work. They were making it stronger dot where the original ship had. One power line, the humans added 3. Where the original had one computer controlling everything, the humans added manual backups. Where the original had delicate connections, the humans added thick, strong ones. It's not pretty, Annie said, looking at their work. But it's tough. Pretty doesn't keep you alive in space. Jake said late in the afternoon. Something happened that shocked everyone. The humans got basic power working. Not full power, just enough to turn on some lights and run a few simple systems. But it was more progress than anyone else had made. Impossible, whispered an alien student. The power core was completely dead. We didn't fix the power core, Lisa explained. We bypassed it. We found 3 smaller power sources and connected them together. But that's not how it's supposed to work, the alien protested. No, Jake said with a grin. But it works. Word spread quickly through the school. Students from other classes came to see what the humans were doing. Teachers stopped their lessons to watch. Even some important visitors came to look. What they saw confused them. The humans had taken a beautiful, elegant alien ship and turned it into something that looked like it was built in a garage. Wires ran everywhere. Control panels were rough and ugly. Nothing matched the original design. But it worked. The lights were on. The air was getting cleaner. The ship was coming back to life. How? Asked Commander Vexhai, his skin changing colors rapidly. How did you do in one day what others couldn't do in months? We didn't try to fix it, Jake said simply. We made it better. Better? The commander asked. It looks terrible. It looks like something that won't die easy, Lisa said. And sometimes that's more important than looking good. As the day ended, the 3 humans packed up their tools. They had made more progress than anyone thought possible. But more importantly, they had shown everyone a different way of thinking about problems. Tomorrow we get the engines working, Danny said. And the weapons, Jake added. And maybe the kitchen, Lisa said with a laugh. I'm getting tired of eating cold sandwiches. The alien students watched them leave, confused and amazed. How had 3 primitive humans with basic tools done what the galaxy's best engineers couldn't do? The answer was simple, but the aliens didn't understand it yet. Humans didn't just fix things, they improved them. They took what was broken and made it stronger. They turned disasters into opportunities. And tomorrow, they would show the galaxy what a human-improved alien ship could really do. On the third day, the differences between humans and aliens became impossible to ignore. The alien students had made careful plans and detailed computer models, but their ships still looked like broken wrecks. The humans had turned their section into something that looked like chaos, but it was working chaos. Electric cables snaked along the walls like metal vines. Sparks flew from jury-rigged connections. The smooth, elegant curves of the original alien design were covered with ugly human additions that looked like they belonged in a scrapyard. But every ugly addition had a purpose. "This is insane," said Zexthel, one of the alien students whose people had originally built the ship. "They're ruining everything that made the ship beautiful." "Beauty doesn't keep you alive when someone's shooting at you," Jake replied. He was doing something that made all the aliens nervous. He was working on the ship's reactor while it was running. "You'll cause an explosion," Zexthel warned. "The reactor could blow up the whole station." "Only if I mess up," Jake said cheerfully, his hands deep inside the reactor's control system. "That's what I'm worried about," Zexthel said, but Jake knew what he was doing. On Earth, humans worked on dangerous machines all the time. They fixed cars while the engines were running. They repaired electrical systems while the power was on. They learned to work with danger because they had to. "Done," Jake said, pulling his hands out of the reactor. "We now have 50% more power, and it's more stable than before." The aliens stared at him in shock. He had just improved a reactor design that had taken their best engineers decades to perfect. Lisa was working on a different problem. The ship's computer brain had been completely destroyed, so she was building a new one. But instead of trying to recreate the original delicate bio-neural network, she was installing something much simpler. "It's not as fast as the original," she explained to a group of worried alien students. "But it can't be killed by electrical storms. It can be fixed with basic tools, and if one part breaks, the rest keeps working." "But it's so primitive," whispered one of the aliens. "Primitive works," Danny said from across the room. He was doing something that violated several laws of physics, connecting power systems that were never meant to work together using a device he had built from spare parts. "That's impossible," said an alien teacher who had come to watch. "Those systems use completely different energy types." "I know," Danny said, not looking up from his work. "That's why I built a converter." "A converter for incompatible energy systems doesn't exist," the teacher insisted. "It does now," Danny said with a grin. The human approach was becoming clear. They weren't trying to restore the ship to its original condition. They were rebuilding it using human logic, making everything stronger, more reliable, and easier to fix. Where the original ship had one way to do everything, the humans added multiple ways. Where the original had delicate, precise systems, the humans built tough, simple ones. Where the original was beautiful, the humans made it functional. "Look at this," Lisa said, showing the aliens her new control system. The original controls were thought-activated. Very advanced, very elegant. But what happens if the pilot gets knocked unconscious? The aliens looked confused. "The ship would stop working," one of them said. "Exactly," Lisa said. "So I added manual controls for everything. Big, obvious buttons and switches. If the fancy systems fail, you can still fly. The ship by hand." "But it looks so crude," an alien student complained. "Crude works when you're getting shot at," Jake said. "Pretty doesn't matter if you're dead." By the middle of the day, something amazing happened. The humans had restored most of the ships. Basic systems. They had air circulation, water recycling, artificial gravity, and even heating. The other alien teams were still trying to figure out how to get their lights to turn on, but the humans weren't done. They started making improvements that the original designers had never thought of. "What are you doing now?" asked Commander Vex High, watching Jake install something new in the weapon systems. "Making the guns better," Jake said simply. "Better? How?" "Well, the original weapons were very accurate and used very little power, but they took a long time to recharge between shots. So I modified them." "How?" "Now they can fire faster, hit harder, and they have backup power supplies. They're not as elegant as the originals, but they'll keep shooting even if the main power fails." The commander's skin turned a worried shade of purple. "You improved Zephyrian weapons technology?" "I improved human weapons technology," Jake corrected. "I just put it in an alien ship." This was the moment when the aliens began to understand something frightening. The humans weren't just fixing the ship. They were making it better than it had ever been. They were taking advanced alien technology and improving it using methods that seemed primitive, but were actually more practical. "The defensive shields are online," Lisa reported, "and they're stronger than the originals." "How?" asked an alien student. "I added layers," Lisa explained. "The original shield was one big energy field. Very efficient, but if it failed, you had no protection. My shield has 6 layers. If one fails, the others keep working." "But that uses more power," the alien protested. "So I improved the power system too," Lisa said with a shrug. Word spread through the entire school. Teachers stopped their classes to come watch. Important visitors called their governments to report what they were seeing. Everyone wanted to understand how 3 young humans were accomplishing the impossible. "Their methods are completely unscientific," complained one alien professor. "They're just guessing and hoping." "But it's working," pointed out another teacher. "They've made more progress in 3 days than our best engineers made in months." "That's what worries me," the first professor said. By evening, the humans had achieved something that shocked everyone. They had taken a ship that was declared beyond repair and made it not just functional, but better than it had been when it was new. The ship could now survive damage that would have destroyed the original. It could be repaired with basic tools, instead of requiring specialized equipment. Most importantly, it could keep fighting even when badly damaged. "This is wrong," said Zexthal, looking at what the humans had done to his people's elegant design. "You've turned a work of art into a war machine." "No," Jake said, patting the hull of the ship like it was a pet. "We've turned a fragile butterfly into a tough survivor." "It's ugly," Zexthal insisted. "It's alive," Danny said. "And tomorrow, we're going to make it fly." The aliens went to bed that night, confused and worried. They had seen humans take their most advanced technology and improve it using methods that seemed crude and primitive. But the improvements worked better than the originals. Some of the aliens began to understand why humans were called Deathworlders. It wasn't just because they came from a dangerous planet. It was because they had learned to make everything tougher, more reliable, and harder to kill. And tomorrow, they would see what happened when that attitude was applied to a starship. The 4th day brought crowds. Word had spread across the entire academy about what the human students were doing. Teachers, researchers, and even important visitors from other planets found excuses to visit the training hall. What they saw there challenged everything they thought they knew about technology and engineering. The humans had transformed the broken ship into something that looked like it came from a completely different civilization. The smooth, artistic curves of the original design were still there, but they were now covered with human additions that looked rough and industrial. Thick cables, heavy switches, backup systems, and emergency controls were everywhere. "Status report," Commander Vex High said, his skin cycling through colors of amazement and confusion. "Air systems are working perfectly," Lisa said, wiping sweat from her forehead. We've got clean air in every section, and backup systems in case the main ones fail. Power systems are stable at 70%, Danny reported from his position. At a control panel that looked like it belonged in a factory instead of a spaceship. The reactor is running better than new, and we've got 3 independent backup power sources. And weapons? The commander asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. Jake grinned. Let's just say this ship can now defend itself against anything up to and including a battleship. That's impossible, whispered an alien professor. The original ship was only designed to fight other destroyers. The original ship was designed by people who never had to fight for their lives, Jake replied. We redesigned it for people who have. The transformation was remarkable. What had once been a twisted wreck was now a functional warship that looked like it could survive anything. The clean lines of alien design were interrupted by human modifications that appeared ugly but served important purposes. More importantly, the ship now had something the original had never possessed, the ability to keep fighting even when badly damaged. Human engineering had created backup systems for the backup systems. Every critical component could be controlled manually if the computers failed. Every important system had multiple ways to access and repair it. The molecular structure should have failed hours ago, muttered Dr. Thanwi, an elderly alien professor, whose gaseous form had been studying the modifications all day. The stress patterns alone should have torn the ship apart. Human engineering doesn't always follow normal rules, observed Commander Vexhai. Their entire species evolved by surviving impossible situations. The other student teams had stopped working entirely. Some were taking notes, trying to understand what the humans were doing. Others were simply staring in shock at what 3 Deathworlders had accomplished with nothing but basic tools and complete disregard for conventional wisdom. How did you make the hull stronger? Asked a crystal-skinned alien student. We didn't make it stronger, Lisa explained. We made it smarter. Look at these patches here. They're not just repairs. They're improvements. If this section gets hit, the damage spreads to these reinforced areas instead of to critical systems. But that's not how hull design works, the alien protested. It's not how your hull design works, Lisa corrected. This is human hull design. We assume our ships are going to get hurt, so we make them tough enough to survive it. The alien students were beginning to understand something that made them uncomfortable. The humans weren't just fixing the ship, they were making it better, suited for actual combat than the original design had ever been. The original ship was built for exploration and patrol duties, Danny explained to a group of fascinated observers. It was designed to avoid fights, not win them. But humans don't avoid fights. We end them. Your modifications have changed the ship's entire purpose, observed an alien teacher. No, Jake said, running his hand along a wall panel that now bristled with emergency controls. We've just made it honest about what spaceships really need to do. Keep their crews alive in a hostile universe. By afternoon, the humans had achieved something that the alien observers found deeply disturbing. They had taken advanced alien technology and made it work better using methods that seemed primitive but were actually more practical. Navigation. Systems are online, Lisa announced. We can plot courses using either alien or human star charts, and the system will automatically choose the safest route. Life support is not just working, it's optimized, Danny added. We can support twice. As many people as the original design, and the air will stay clean, even if half the system gets destroyed. Communications are interesting, Jake said with a dangerous smile. We can now talk to any ship in the galaxy, and our signals are encrypted using human military codes. Human military codes? Commander Vexhai asked nervously. Don't worry, Jake said. We only used the basic ones. The really secret stuff is still classified. The Academy was in chaos. Instructors who had declared the project impossible were demanding explanations. Students from other species were trying to understand how 3 humans had accomplished what teams of their best engineers could not. Official observers were frantically taking notes and sending reports to their home planets. "This changes everything," whispered one alien diplomat to another. "If humans can improve our technology this easily, what else can they do?" "I don't know," the other replied. "But I think we need to be very careful how we treat them from now on." The humans, meanwhile, were focused on the final tests. They had proven that their ship could work, but tomorrow they would have to prove it could fly. "Are you worried?" Lisa asked as they prepared to leave for the day. "About what?" Jake replied. "About whether it will actually fly. We've changed so much that we're not even sure what we've built anymore." "I'm not worried," Danny said confidently. "We built it to work, so it will work." "But what if we made a mistake?" Lisa asked. "Then we'll fix it," Jake said simply. "That's what humans do." As the 3 humans gathered their tools and prepared to leave, the alien observers continued to study their work. The ship that sat before them was unlike anything they had ever seen. A hybrid of alien elegance and human practicality that shouldn't exist but undeniably did. "Tomorrow will be the real test," Commander Vexhai said to his fellow instructors. "If that ship actually flies, we'll have to reconsider everything we think we know about engineering." "And if it doesn't fly?" asked another instructor. "Then we'll have learned something equally important," the commander replied. "But somehow I don't think that's going to be a problem." The humans left the academy that evening with quiet confidence. They had built something that worked, and they knew it would keep working. Tomorrow, they would show the galaxy what happened. When human determination met alien technology, the result would change everything. The 5th day arrived with the entire academy holding its breath. Students, teachers, and visitors from across the galaxy had gathered in the training hall. News crews from a dozen planets had set up cameras. Government officials sat in the observation deck, taking notes and whispering to each other. The human students seemed completely unbothered by all the attention. They arrived early, ate their breakfast inside the ship, and went through their final checks with the same calm confidence they had shown all week. "You know," Jake said, sipping his coffee while sitting in the pilot's seat, "I think we might have overdone it a bit." "What do you mean?" Lisa asked, checking her engine controls for the 10th time. "Well, look at this place," Jake said, gesturing at the control room around them. "It's got more backup systems than the Academy's main building." "That's not overdoing it," then he said from his position at the power controls. "That's just being prepared." The ship's bridge was a perfect example of human engineering philosophy. The original alien controls were still there, sleek, elegant, and beautiful. But they were now surrounded by human additions that looked rough and industrial. Big red buttons for emergencies. Manual switches for every important system. Thick cables that could be repaired with basic tools. Control panels that were clearly labeled in both alien and human languages. "It looks like a factory," complained an alien observer. "It looks like something that will keep working no matter what happens to it," Lisa replied. Outside the ship, the alien students who had been working on their own sections looked nervous. They had made some progress, but nothing like what the humans had accomplished. Their ship still looked like broken wrecks, while the human ship looked like it was ready for war. "Final systems check," Commander Vexhai announced over the intercom. "All stations report status. Life support is green." Lisa called out, "Air, water, gravity, and temperature are all stable. We can support a crew of 50 for 6 months. Power systems are running at 80%, Danny reported. Reactor is stable. All backup systems are online, and we have enough reserve. Power to run everything twice over. Weapons and defenses are ready," Jake added with a grin. We've got more firepower than a heavy cruiser and shields that could stop a battleship. The alien observers looked at each other with concern. How had 3 students built something that sounded more powerful than most military ships? Engine status? The commander asked. All engines are green, Danny said. Main drive, maneuvering thrusters, and emergency systems are all ready. We can go from 0 to maximum speed in 30 seconds. Navigation? Online and ready, Lisa replied. We can plot courses to anywhere in the galaxy, and the computer will automatically avoid dangerous areas. Communications? Perfect, Jake said. We can talk to anyone, anywhere, and our signals are encrypted better than most military transmissions. Commander Vexhi's skin cycled through several colors of amazement. Very well. Prepare for engine start. The moment everyone had been waiting for arrived at exactly 11:47 a.m. station time, with half the Academy watching and official recorders. Documenting everything, the human students began the startup sequence for a ship that was supposed to be impossible to repair. Reactor power increasing, Danny announced. All systems are responding normally. Navigation is active, Lisa reported. We have full control of all flight systems. Weapons and shields are online, Jake added. We're ready for anything. Beginning engine startup, Danny said, his hands moving over controls that combined alien sophistication with human reliability. The ship didn't just start, it came alive. The integration of human and alien technologies created something unprecedented. The engines hummed with power. The lights burned steady and bright. Every system worked perfectly. Full power available, Danny announced, his voice carrying notes of pride and amazement. All systems are not just functional, they're optimized. We have complete flight control, Lisa added. Maneuvering thrusters, main engines, and emergency. Systems are all responding perfectly. Defensive systems are active, Jake reported. Shields are at maximum strength, and all weapons are ready. The Academy erupted in chaos. Instructors who had declared the project impossible were demanding explanations. Students from other species were trying to understand how 3 humans had accomplished what teams of their best engineers could not. Official observers were frantically taking notes and sending emergency reports to their governments. This is impossible, whispered one alien professor. The mathematical probabilities alone should have prevented this. Humans don't seem to care about mathematical probabilities, replied another. They just do what needs to be done. But the humans were already thinking about what came next. They had proven their point, that sometimes the best way to solve an impossible problem was to ignore the reasons why it was impossible and just get to work. So, Jake said, checking his watch as the celebration continued around them. Anyone want to grab lunch? All this impossible engineering has made me hungry. Lunch. Sounds great, Lisa agreed, shutting down her stations with the casual confidence of someone who had just redefined what was possible. I heard they're serving real Earth pizza in the cafeteria today. Count me in, Danny said, securing his systems with the practiced efficiency of someone who expected his work to last for decades. But first, should we give them a demonstration? Jake's eyes lit up. You mean actually fly this thing? Why not? Danny said with a grin. We built it to fly. The 3 humans looked at each other, then at the crowd of amazed aliens watching them. Without saying another word, they began the flight sequence. Attention all stations, Jake announced over the intercom. This is the human test team. We're taking our ship out for a quick flight. Everyone might want to step back. The aliens scattered as the ship's engines powered up to full strength. The vessel that had been declared impossible to repair began to rise smoothly from the floor of the training hall. Beautiful, Lisa said, watching the ship respond perfectly to her controls. She flies like a dream. Better than a dream, Danny added, monitoring power systems that were running more efficiently than their original designers had thought possible. She flies like she was meant to. The ship performed a perfect series of maneuvers in the training. Hall's airspace. It turned, rolled, and accelerated with grace that surprised even its builders. The hybrid of alien elegance and human practicality created something beautiful in its own rough way. All systems performing beyond specifications, Danny reported with satisfaction. Engine efficiency is up 30% from the original design. Flight controls are responsive and stable, Lisa added. This ship handles better than anything I've ever flown. And if anyone wants to test our defensive capabilities, Jake said with a dangerous grin, I'm pretty sure we could take on half the Academy's fleet and win. After a few minutes of demonstration flying, the humans brought their ship back down to the training hall floor. The landing was so smooth that some observers didn't even realize they had touched down until the engines powered off. The silence that followed was deafening. Hundreds of aliens stared at the ship that shouldn't exist. They had just watched 3 human students accomplish something that the galaxy's finest engineers had declared impossible. Well, Jake said, standing up. From the pilot's seat, that was fun. But I'm still hungry. Same here, Lisa said, gathering her tools with the calm efficiency of someone who did impossible things every day. All this reality-defying engineering really works up an appetite. Pizza sounds perfect, Danny agreed, shutting down the last of his systems. And maybe some of that Earth ice cream they serve on Fridays. As the 3 humans prepared to leave for lunch, the alien observers finally found their voices. How? Commander Vex High asked, his skin cycling through every color in the spectrum. How did you do what our best engineers said was impossible? We didn't listen to them, Jake said simply. We listened to the ship. But the mathematical models, the probability calculations, the material stress analyses, they all said it couldn't work, protested an alien professor. Math is useful, Lisa said, slinging her toolbox over her shoulder. But sometimes you have to ignore the math and just build what needs to be built. Your methods violate every principle of advanced engineering, complained another instructor. Our methods work, Danny said with a shrug. Sometimes that's more important than being advanced. The humans walked toward the exit, leaving behind a crowd of confused and amazed aliens. The ship they had built stood as proof of something the galaxy was just beginning to understand, that humans didn't just solve problems, they made them better. Wait, called out a young alien student. What do we call it? The ship, I mean. What's its name? The 3 humans looked at each other, then back at their creation. The ship sat there like a sleeping giant, ugly in some ways, beautiful in others, but undeniably alive and powerful. How about Second Chance? Lisa suggested. Perfect, Jake agreed. Everyone said it was dead, but we gave it a second chance. And it gave us a chance to show what humans can do, Danny added Dot as they left the training hall. The humans could hear the excited chatter of aliens discussing what they had witnessed. Some were frightened by the implications. Others were amazed by the possibilities. All of them were trying to understand how 3 Students F